never thought the most humiliating moment of my life would happen at my own son's wedding. My name is Rachel. I'm 34 years old, a single mother, and for most of my life, my son Ethan was my entire world. His father walked away when Ethan was 5. From that day forward, it was just the two of us. I worked double shifts as a nurse. I skipped vacations. I drove the same old Honda for 11 years. Every sacrifice I made had one purpose: giving my son a better life than I ever had. So when Ethan got engaged to a woman named Madison, I was genuinely happy for him. At first, Madison seemed sweet. She always called me Mom. She hugged me whenever we met. She told everyone how lucky Ethan was to have such a supportive mother. I believed every word. Then the wedding planning started, and everything changed. Madison wanted the wedding of her dreams. Not a normal wedding. A luxury wedding. A 5-star venue overlooking the ocean. Custom floral arrangements. A designer wedding dress. A live band. Premium catering. Every week the budget somehow got bigger. One evening, Ethan came to my house looking nervous. "Mom," he said quietly, "we're a little short." I already knew what that meant.
"How much?" I asked.
He stared at the floor. $58,000. I almost dropped my coffee. $58,000. It was nearly everything I'd saved over the years. Money meant for retirement. Money meant for emergencies. Money I'd spent decades building. But then Ethan looked at me with those same eyes he'd had as a little boy. "Please, Mom, this wedding means everything to Madison." I should have said no. Instead, I smiled. "If it helps you start your future together, I'll do it." The relief on his face made me believe I'd made the right decision. For months, I paid invoices, venue deposits, flowers, decorations, catering bills. Every time another expense appeared, I covered it. Not because anyone forced me, because I loved my son. As the wedding day approached, I imagined sitting at the family table, watching him begin the next chapter of his life. I thought I'd feel proud, respected, included. I had no idea that Madison had something very different planned for me, and I wouldn't discover it until every guest was already watching. The wedding day arrived on a bright Saturday morning. I woke up before sunrise feeling more emotional than I expected. After everything I'd sacrificed, my son was finally getting married. I carefully put on the navy blue dress I'd bought for the occasion and drove to the venue. The place looked breathtaking. White roses lined the entrance. Crystal chandeliers sparkled inside the ballroom. Everything looked exactly like the dream wedding Madison had described for months. The wedding ceremony itself was beautiful. As I watched Ethan standing at the altar, I felt tears filling my eyes. For a moment, all the stress and expenses seemed worth it. My little boy looked happy. That was all I wanted. After the ceremony, guests moved toward the reception hall. I followed the crowd, expecting to find my seat near the front with the immediate family. That's when I noticed something strange. My name wasn't at the family table. I checked again. Nothing. I looked at the bridal party table. Nothing there either. Confused, I walked toward Madison. "Hey, sweetheart," I said politely. "I think there might be a mistake with the seating chart." Madison smiled, but it wasn't the warm smile she used to give me. It was cold, almost amused. "Oh, there's no mistake." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Then she said the words I'll never forget. "Rachel, you can sit with the guests." For a second, I thought I had misunderstood her. "The guests?" She nodded casually. "Yeah, family tables are reserved for close family." My stomach dropped. Close family? I was Ethan's mother. The woman who raised him alone. The woman who paid for most of the wedding. I looked around, expecting someone to laugh and reveal it was a joke. Nobody did. A few nearby guests had heard the conversation. Their faces immediately turned awkward. I felt heat rush into my cheeks. "Madison," I said quietly, "I'm Ethan's mother." She shrugged. "And they're our guests." Then she pointed toward a table near the back of the ballroom. Not just any table. The very last table. Near the kitchen doors. Far from the dance floor. Far from the wedding party. Far from my son. The humiliation hit me like a punch. But what hurt most wasn't Madison. It was Ethan. Because he was standing only a few feet away, and he wasn't saying a single word. Our eyes met. For one desperate moment, I expected him to step forward, to defend me, to tell Madison she'd gone too far. Instead, he looked down at the floor, silent. That silence shattered something inside me. I slowly nodded. "Okay." Then I walked toward the back table. But as I sat down, fighting back tears, I made a decision. If they wanted to treat me like I didn't matter, they were about to learn exactly how much I did. I sat at that back table for nearly 20 minutes, staring at the untouched glass of champagne in front of me. The music was loud. People were laughing. The bride and groom were smiling for photos. And yet I felt completely invisible. The more I thought about what had happened, the more I realized this wasn't an accident. Madison had planned it, and Ethan had allowed it. That truth hurt more than anything. Then my phone buzzed. It was a notification from my bank. Normally I would have ignored it. But something made me look. As I scrolled through my recent transactions, I saw every payment I'd made for the wedding over the past year. The venue, the caterer, the florist, the band, the decorations, almost everything had been paid directly from my account. Suddenly an idea came to me. Not out of anger. Out of self-respect. I had spent months helping them create this perfect day. The least I deserved was honesty. I stood up and walked toward the wedding coordinator. She recognized me immediately. "Mrs. Parker, is everything okay?" I gave her a polite smile. "I just need the microphone for 2 minutes." She hesitated, then nodded. A few moments later, the band stopped playing. Conversations faded. More than 200 guests turned toward the stage. I could feel Madison's eyes on me. Confused. Concerned. I stepped up to the microphone. My hands were shaking, but my voice wasn't. "Good evening, everyone." The room became completely silent. "I promise I'll only take a minute." I looked at Ethan first, then at Madison. "I just wanted to say how proud I am of my son today." Guests smiled. A few people even applauded. Then I continued. "Over the last year, I've had the privilege of helping make this wedding possible." Madison's smile began to disappear. "I was honored to contribute nearly $58,000 toward today's celebration." A wave of whispers spread across the ballroom. People started looking at each other. Several guests looked genuinely shocked. Then I took a deep breath. And despite being told today that I'm not considered close family, I still wish the bride and groom a lifetime of happiness. The room froze. Complete silence. Every guest understood exactly what I meant. Madison's face turned pale. Ethan looked like he wanted the floor to open beneath him. I handed the microphone back to the coordinator and calmly stepped off the stage. But judging from the expressions around the room, the real drama was only beginning. The ballroom stayed silent for several seconds after I left the stage. Then the whispers started. Quiet at first, then louder. People were turning toward Madison and Ethan. Some looked shocked. Others looked disgusted. A few guests were openly asking questions. "You paid for the wedding? She put his own mother at the back table? What kind of person does that?" For the first time all day, Madison looked nervous. The confident smile she'd worn all afternoon had completely disappeared. I returned to my seat and calmly took a sip of water. I wasn't interested in creating a scene. I had simply told the truth. The truth had done all the work. A few minutes later, Ethan rushed over to my table. "Mom," he whispered urgently. "Why would you do that?" I stared at him in disbelief. "Why would I do that?" His face fell. For the first time, he seemed to realize how absurd his question sounded. I stood up. "Ethan, I spent years putting you first. I gave you everything I could. Today wasn't about the money. It was about respect." He looked ashamed. "I know." "No," I said quietly. "You knew when she humiliated me. You knew when she sent me to the back of the room. And you chose to stay silent." His eyes filled with tears. But it was too late. The damage had already been done. Meanwhile, Madison was dealing with her own problems. Several members of Ethan's family had confronted her. Even some of her friends were distancing themselves. The wedding reception continued, but the mood had changed completely. The fairy tale image she had worked so hard to create was gone. A month later, Ethan came to my house alone. He apologized. Not the quick apology people give when they're caught, a real one. The kind that comes from regret. He admitted that Madison had been making comments about me for months. He'd ignored them because he didn't want conflict. That choice had nearly cost him his relationship with me. It took time, but eventually we rebuilt our bond. As for Madison, people never forgot what happened that day. Neither did she, and neither did I. Because the greatest revenge wasn't ruining their wedding. It wasn't embarrassing anyone. It was standing up for myself after years of putting everyone else first. The woman sitting at the back table disappeared that day. The woman who walked out of that ballroom knew her worth. And once you know your worth, nobody gets to decide your place ever again.